for speaking to us, sir. What is the main objective of this Agri Conference that has been organized today?
Primarily, India is an agrarian economy. There are huge investment opportunities and trade opportunities in India. We have a large population, incomes are rising, our existing consumption levels are low, and therefore this situation creates a huge opportunity for agriculture and agribusiness. And the seminar and the panel discussion and the one-on-one meetings organized by Phillipcapital primarily aims to educate potential investors about trade opportunities and investment opportunities, and the focus of attention by and large has been on the infrastructure development, agriculture infrastructure. Therefore, I want to compliment Phillipcapital for thinking about this topic and for organizing this event. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking here, moderating the panel discussion, and we've had a series of meetings with potential investors, and all the questions that were shot at me were all quite incisive, and I thought I responded to them quite well. But I'm quite happy to be a part of this venture.
So what would be the key takeaways from today?
Yes, very clearly there are huge investment opportunities in the Indian agriculture, agribusiness and food processing space. The investment opportunities are on the input side, on the processing side, on the output side, and of course on the infrastructure development side. And therefore, if I have to speak more about infrastructure development, there is an opportunity for new warehouses, both for dry bulk cargo. There's an opportunity for liquid bulk warehousing also. Sure. And when I talk of liquid bulk warehousing, of course, the agriculture part, for example, vegetable oils is a very small component of the total liquid bulk cargo that we handle. But a substantial part of our liquid bulk is crude oil. Sure. and petroleum and chemicals. Sure. If you talk of vegetable oils, it's a small part, about 20 million tons in terms of domestic production and imports. But the overall liquid bulk cargo space is very large, and that's crying for attention, that's crying for investment. And the dry bulk cargo, which obviously in agriculture terms will be rice, wheat, coarse grains, pulses, cotton, oilseed, sugar, right, etc., etc. There also, I believe, there is an opportunity emerging for investment. We need more modern warehouses. Right. We want more better trained warehouse managers. Right. We want, there is a commodity financing opportunity, sure, collateral management opportunity, sure, more laboratory services are required. And therefore, I think this market is opening up and is actually crying for policy attention, investment attention and research attention.
So, I mean, I understand that we have around 793 odd warehouses in a country as vast as ours. How much do you think, if we had to quantify in percentage terms, can we look to increase it in the next couple of years?
Over the next couple of years, I would think at least anything between 10 and 15% increase in the number of warehouses and in the capacity of warehouses is possible. But you have to remember that year on year, over the next 15-20 years, I'm expecting our production to expand, our storage requirement to expand, our import and export trade in agriculture commodities to expand, and therefore we need to keep tracking developments in the agriculture space in terms of production and import and export activity, and keep on investing in creating new warehouses. And technology is going to be a great enabler in running our warehouses a lot more transparently than we probably did in the last several years. Right. And therefore, we need more warehouses, more scientifically built warehouses, correct, trained warehouse keepers, and technology-driven warehouse management with high level of transparency and ethical standards. I think this is the way forward. And I have no doubt that a number of potential investors who spoke with me during the day are all convinced that India is is really a country with a huge level of opportunity for investment. And I have always believed that the Indian party, the growth party, has just begun,
right,
and people have to be a part of this growth party.
Sure. So considering that, we lose around 25 to 30% of our agricultural produce every year, why do you think it's taken so long for policymakers or even investors to look at this segment, which clearly, as you correctly said, has been crying out for help?
One primary reason is that both on the production, on the input side, on the output side, there is the problem of fragmentation. Our land holding is fragmented. Farmers are small. As many as 80% of our farmers own less than 2 acres of land. And on the output side, whether it is rice milling, wheat flour, cotton ginning and pressing, sugar factories, or dal milling, oil seed crushing, refineries, you just name any on the output side, the processing factories, they are all small and fragmented. They are spread across the country. There are a very large number of small units that dot the Indian landscape, and therefore by their very nature, these companies don't have either the will or the capacity to address this issue of food loss, both pre-harvest loss and post-harvest loss. Number one. Number two, the government, in terms of its policy, I believe has a big role to play, big responsibility to discharge in terms of reducing these losses. The pre-harvest losses can certainly be reduced by improving our input management and by strengthening our extension services, by better water management. And on the output side, we need to have a more rural infrastructure in terms of storing the cargo, maybe in some cases cold storage, cold chains, better places for grading and sorting, and for transportation, etc. Therefore, we need to find holistic solutions both on the pre-harvest side and on the post-harvest side to save the crops and to reduce losses. But yes, some efforts are going on, but that's actually not enough for the country. We need to redouble our efforts. For this is an area that seeks policy attention, investment attention, and research attention.
Sure. So over the years, we've seen that agricultural sector's contribution to GDP has been steadily declining. But do you feel that somewhere this public-private partnership can come together in terms, like I heard you speaking today, saying that if the government turns its attention towards the sector, then the private sector will also pitch in. So how do you see that working out?
The decline in the share of agriculture in GDP does not worry me at all. This is a trend for any developing economy. The US went through all this probably 50 or 60 years ago. Europe went through several decades ago, and therefore the share of agriculture reduces because the services sector and the industry sector are all doing even much better than agriculture. Right. Therefore, agriculture share will reduce. But what is important is the consistent growth rates in agriculture. Over the last 20 years, agriculture growth rates have been tardy. The annual average growth rate is something around 3%, when the target was actually 4%. For we never went anywhere close to the target on an annual average basis. For that is because we didn't have policy support, or agriculture didn't have policy support or investment support or research support. But now I believe there is a certain realization within the policy making circles that more investments must flow into agriculture and agribusiness, more research dollars have to be spent in this area, and therefore we will, I'm sure, we'll have better policy support, investment support, and research support going forward. And if we didn't do it, I think we'll be in for trouble, because on the other side is demand. Population is expanding, and incomes are rising because of rising GDP. People's purchasing power has substantially improved, and therefore demand will rise relentlessly, but supplies have to catch up with demand. Right. And if supplies are not able to catch up with demand, we will import. Like we are importing edible oil, we are importing pulses. It could get worse over the coming years. Maybe we would become regular importers of wheat and sugar. Who knows? So if we have to avoid all this, we need to give a lot more priority in terms of policy and investment and research to agriculture.
Sure.
And this, obviously, the initiative has to come from the central government, but the implementation is by the state governments. For state governments have to be on board. They need to play ball. They need to all get together and uniformly implement the agriculture policies across the country. My worry is agriculture is a state subject in the constitution, but different state governments attach different levels of importance to agriculture.
Yes.
And this, in my opinion, is not desirable. We need a fairly uniform, passionate approach to agriculture promotion and development across India. And therefore, I have written, commented, and I believe firmly that the central government has to take the leadership position in bringing all the state governments together to have some kind of a common policy for India with some kind of a reasonably uniform implementation of those policies. We have policies in place, we have outlays in place, the money that comes out of the budget, but the outlays have to get converted to outcomes. But that unfortunately is not happening.
The APMC, for instance, hasn't been implemented by all the states, and that is quite a crucial reform.
Absolutely.
That has taken place.
Absolutely, and therefore we need we need reforms in APMC. The mandi system, the committees are all highly politicized. We need to depoliticize the APMC system. The APMC market yards have a lot of open space. Why should we not spend money, invest and create infrastructure within the mandi structure where the farmer can do his grading and sorting? Today the farmer does not get quality related pricing.
Yeah.
If 5 of us produce cotton or groundnut or whatever, and if I do much better input management and if my quality is far better than others, I don't get a better price. I don't get a premium price.
Yes.
I get the same price as anyone else who produces the crop I produce gets.
Do you think the farmer to consumer market would help in this, in helping the farmer get the...
Certainly, absolutely. And therefore, we should also promote, and of course we are promoting, it should accelerate the promotion of FPOs,
right.
Farmer Producer Organizations. The company law has now a new provision, and the farmers themselves will form into a company, and they will produce what the market needs, and they'll also have economies of scale because a large number of farmers are going to get together. That's the way forward.
So how much do you think the warehouse receipt finance is a game changer for us going forward? Because we've seen a substantial increase in the credit that is being extended through it, but we have a very ambitious target of 8.5 to 9 lakh crore of agri credit that the government has earmarked.
Correct. Again, on this, I've commented on a number of occasions. This 8.5 to 9 lakh crore rupees, which I think in the last 5 or 6 years has been moving up by about 1 lakh crore rupees every year, is an incremental credit that is in the budget every year. Not everything actually goes to the farmers is number one. Small farmers, marginal farmers are still left out of this credit flow loop. It is extremely important that small and marginal farmers do have access to the agriculture credit that is supposed to be granted, but banks are rather wary of giving loan to small and marginal farmers, and we need a system of monitoring and evaluation of the flow of agriculture credit to small and marginal farmers. And unless that is done, banks have to be forced in some manner of speaking to make sure that no farmer is left out from this credit stream.
Sure. So after 2 consecutive droughts of 2014 and 2015, we're looking at a bumper stock this time, around 270 million tons of food grains. I understand it's a great piece of news for the sector. But how do we prevent leakages? Now we have bumper crops, we've had that, but there are leakages, there are issues, as you said. The lack of warehousing is obviously a major problem there.
To be honest, I'm not very sure if we are going to have a bumper crop. Okay, number one. Yes,
so you disagree with the government?
Yes, we've had a reasonably good kharif crop in terms of pulses production, oilseeds production, and coarse grains production, maize, etc., rice, of course. Sorry. The Rabi crops are in the making.
Yes.
We need to wait and watch. There are risks to Rabi crop, particularly to wheat, unseasonal rains, hailstorm, etc. Even assuming that we enjoy normal weather, the production this year, 2016-17, both Kharif and Rabi together, will substantially be higher than what we had in 15-16. But remember, 14-15 and 15-16, we did not have any substantial growth in agriculture production because of El Nino,
right,
and below normal rainfall. This year we have had reasonably good rainfall, well distributed rainfall, and therefore there is an expansion in the harvest. But I wouldn't actually call it any kind of a bumper harvest, except of course Kharif pulses did extremely well, but then the increase is from a very low base, and therefore given the kind of income increases that this economy has seen in recent years, even if we were to harvest a very large crop, there could still be supply tightness in certain commodities and certain crops, and we may even have a certain upside inflation risk. We need to be very wary of this. The second factor I want to bring is the currency.
Right.
Will the rupee weaken further? It's already weakened. If the rupee were to touch 70 to a dollar, that will immediately push up the landed cost of edible oil, landed cost of pulses, etc. And we are import dependent. Therefore, I don't see actually a bumper crop in the making, but we'll have a large crop, but not a bumper crop. And therefore, we need to constantly monitor the crop size and keep a tab on the availability, and maybe plan for imports if need be. I'll give you an example. Sugar, for example. I believe India will have to import about 2 to 3 million tons of sugar in 2017, because sugar stocks are absolutely tight. We can't be talking about import now, because this is the peak crushing season. The crushing season will come to an end in February, and then I am expecting very strident price rise after February. And then we have the festival demand, August, September, October 2017.
Right.
And therefore, we will probably have to import, and we need to start looking at all that. Very important.
So you may disagree with the government's take on having a bumper crop or not, but do you believe that we will have the agricultural growth of over 5% is what the government is claiming?
Yes, we will have a growth of over 5%. But please remember, it is from a low base of El Nino and drought affected crop size of 2015-16.
Sure.
And therefore, that 5% growth rate from a low base is not such an extraordinarily creditable performance. I don't want to sound negative, but a 5% growth rate is nothing extraordinary. The target for growth rate is 4%.
Sure.
And if you've gone to 5%, it is creditable, but that's not an extraordinary performance, because you're comparing it. It's a base effect,
sure,
which creates that 5%.
Sure. Impact of demonetization on the short to medium term?
Yes, in the short term, of course, farmers are disappointed because they have not been able to bring their kharif harvest to the mandis, because the commission agents don't have money to pay the farmers, and therefore they are not buying. Therefore, there is a kind of standoff, and in many of the mandis there is hardly any transaction. But I think beginning of this month, January, things are beginning to improve. The cash flow has improved to some extent. It will continue to improve over the next 1 or 2 months. But I think it will be at least up to it will be March, by which time we'll come to some kind of a reasonably normal situation.
Sure. Your expectations from the budget, sir?
Yes, good question. I expect the budget to focus on three things. One is on agriculture. There'll be more outlays for various production programs. I expect focus of budget on infrastructure and focus of budget on SME, on MSME. These are three sectors which are crying for policy support, research support and investment support. These are three sectors which have the potential to generate employment, and job creation is most critical for this government.
Yes.
And
Since we are witnessing jobless growth.
Yeah, and my sense is that that these three sectors will have the FM's attention.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
God bless you. Bye. Thank you.